Hi, welcome to the third and final part of my fret replacement video. Now the new frets have been installed, they need to be levelled and crowned. You need to dress the fret ends and finally give them a good polish. Before we get started, there's a couple of questions from the first video. The first being, what blade was it I used in my scalpel to remove the lacquer from the side of the frets? It was a Swan Morton number 10. And the other being, what liquid did I brush onto the frets before I heated them? And it's just plain old tap water. The idea being that the water will work its way underneath the fret, and once heated it will turn into steam, and this just eases the extraction of the fret. So the first step, unfortunately I didn't get on camera. It was to file the ends of the frets down nearly flush with the side of the neck, but unfortunately by the time I finished this procedure I noticed that the camera wasn't recording. So this is the second step. This is a fret beveling tool from Guitars and Woods in Portugal. I shall put a link in the description. It's a 35 degree by 90 set file, and as the previous step I'm taking this down almost to the lacquer, as far as I dare go without touching the lacquer, and I shall finish it later with a really fine file when we dress the fret ends. Obviously this is done to both sides of the neck. Before we can level the frets we need to make sure that the neck is completely flat. This is done by using a notched straight edge. This particular one is from Crimson Guitars. This particular neck didn't need any adjustment at all as it was completely flat to start with. Had it need to be adjusted, it's quite a simple exercise to do. There's an Allen key hole in the end of the truss rod. Make sure the Allen key fits well in the Allen key hole. Turn it clockwise and you will put a back bow in the neck. Turn it anti-clockwise, undo it, and you loosen the truss rod and the neck will go into a forward bow. These should be very small adjustments. Don't force it, it should move relatively easily. And once flat, they're ready for levelling. It's a good idea to tape up with masking tape to protect the lacquer on the face of the fretboard, as it can be easily damaged during the next couple of processes. Once I finish masking, I use a black marker pen to colour the top of the frets so I can see where I am once I start the levelling process. Once the ink had dried, I start my levelling process using my levelling beam. This is got two grades of emery cloth stuck to it, the coarsest being 220 and the finest being 320. These frets were reasonably flat to start with, so I went straight for the 320. I'm not putting too much pressure on the levelling beam. I'm also supporting the centre of the neck with my fingers, just letting the emery cloth do its work, and I keep going evenly across the frets until I witness on all the black on the top of the frets. Once I've witnessed on every fret, it's time to stop and check. The tool I'm using to check is called a fret rocker, again purchased from Crimson Guitars. It has 5 ground flat sides, all different lengths. The idea is it fits neatly over a span of 3 frets, and if it rocks from side to side then the fret in the middle is high and will need more levelling. I test each fret in 3 positions on the 2 edges and the centre. Once all frets have been tested and there's no rocking, then levelling is complete. It can be a good idea to add some relief to the frets from the 12th fret onwards. This is what I'm doing here. I add a small thin piece of card to one end of the neck which jacks up slightly the end of the levelling beam, and I ink up from the 12th fret to the end of the neck, and then I re-level, causing a slight taper on the frets from fret 13 onwards. Once I start witnessing on the ink on top of the 13th fret, then that's enough taper. Now all the frets have been levelled, they have a small flat on the top from the levelling process. Now I re-ink the top of the frets and I use a crowning tool to create the curve back on the top of the fret. This is a diamond radius file with the correct radius for the frets that I'm trying to crown. I keep going with the file until I end up with a very thin black line across the top of the fret. Then I will switch to wet and dry paper, going through the different greys to remove all the scratches and leave a surface ready for polishing. I continuously check with the rocker tool to make sure I'm not taking too much material off and everything's still level. The next step is to polish the frets. I use a felt wheel on my Dremel and some Solvo Autosol metal polish. I don't run the Dremel too fast because I don't want to create too much heat. And the shim is there just simply to protect the base of the fretboard. When I finish polishing, I remove all the tape, and here I'm just cleaning it with a panel wipe solution that I use before spraying guitars. This just removes any excess polish left on the surface. I dress the fret ends using a watchmaker's very fine needle file, taking a minimum amount off just to remove any of the sharp edges. This is just a fine rubbing compound to get the shine back onto the lacquer. If you have any questions about this process, then please leave a comment in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you've enjoyed my videos. If you have, then please give me a thumbs up. Maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you very much for watching.